Contextuales desde Adentro, tu lugar para conectar con la psicología contextual. Un podcast de Ana Karenina Alvarenga.
Okay, thank you, Matt, for saying yes to Contextuales desde
Mhm.
Adentro and doing this wonderful role play. Thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.
And I would like you to explain a little bit what you try to achieve with this client and what you were hoping for in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
interventions you made.
So of course, the beginning of interaction with the client I meet for the first time, like I think across all approaches, you're gonna want to connect, of course. But perhaps we can unpack a little bit what it means to connect in this context here. I'd say in RFT or relational frame theory terms, it might sound a little technical and might say, well, why do you need these technical terms for something you could say without it? It's kind of always like that. But for me, it helps me because it keeps things actually simple if I use the same terminology, the same concept. So I'm gonna say I'm trying to build a sense of coordination with you. That's again a technical way of saying I want to build mutual understanding, a sense of
Okay.
connection, a sense of basically I can see the world the way you see it, right? There's a we share reality, and you start saying, I don't have much hope at all. Even you don't have hope. I don't have meaning and purpose in my life. It's always been like that. So you come with presenting a perspective on life, and at first I'm not sharing that. I don't see life like that. I have hope in my life. I have meaning in my life. Even when I don't, I know that there is hope. So but I want to join you somewhere. I want to so I'm trying to take your perspective. And so yes, I know that in all psychotherapy approaches, of course we start with trying to understand the client, and but my sense is that I'm going to join you in your perspective because I don't expect you to do that. As the client, you're not going to join me there. You might make some steps in that direction, but that's I cannot rely on that. So I'm trying to be very curious, and open, even if you're saying things that challenge my own worldview.
Mhm.
As a therapist, we're used to joining people in their worldviews, even when someone says something very strange, very weird. For us, it's like, well, it's not necessarily that weird. So we're used to joining people in their reality. So we could say in our FT terms, it's a lot of perspective taking or dialectic framing. It's a very technical term, but to uh, basically imagine what it would be like to be in your shoes. Well, or I can even recognize in my own experience what's been similar, because of course I can relate to that. When I say it's different than my worldview, not completely, I know what it's like to feel like there is no hope in life, or to lose a sense of meaning. So we start from there. And then from there, I'm trying to get a sense of what it means to you to not have meaning and purpose in your life. Right? I was intrigued from the start when you said it's always been like that. As soon as you said that, I was like, okay, well, how do you know that it's missing? Right? I'm not gonna challenge you like that, but I'm thinking, how do you, how, how can you discriminate that something is missing if you've never experienced what it is? But you started to answer it by saying, I see other people, they have meaning in their life, see my brother, and so up from there, I'm starting to pay attention to how you conceptualize what a meaningful life is like. What do you think is supposed to be in life in order for it to be meaningful? And you say, oh, my brother, he has friends. I think you said he has a partner, or he has kids. I forgot the detail, but basically, it seemed like you define a meaningful life as based on things that you have in your life, and I even commented on that. I reflected back and says, "What that's what you seem to
Yeah.
to see." Right?
Well, Matt,
Go ahead.
if I could just comment on my experience from
Yes,
side
please.
as a client, I you said that I really felt that you were you understood my perspective when you gave me that metaphor of, like, it's almost like you go to the store and you look
Yeah,
at these computers. When you said that, it's like, yeah, that's
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah,
That's what I
yeah.
felt. And so as a client, that was really impactful. I think it's really important to be able to connect
Yeah.
the client in that sense, and I think I felt connection there. So,
Using metaphors is something I really like for building a common reality. There's an author in RFT, Niklas Tornicki, is a great clinician and trainer also. He wrote this book on metaphors called Metaphor in Psychotherapy, Metaphor in Practice.
mhm,
And he talks about the process of co-developing metaphors with clients.
mhm,
So it can start from the client, it can start from the therapist, but then we sort of develop it together. And that's what happened a little bit there. We could have developed it more, but I started with this. That the idea came to mind, and it was not like a already conceived metaphor that I'm using to make a point. It was more like as you're talking, there is that image that comes to mind, and I'm sharing it with you, and that seemed to resonate. It, that's something we could keep using in the process. I could say, and all right, so can you describe what you do? You're in the store, and if your life is like the store, and you're seeing other people, what like maybe they buy those very nice computers, and what does it feel like when you do that? You said that you're not even allowed to look at the computers are more expensive,
mhm,
so that's a way of both helping you be more aware of your own experience, how you deal with your experience, but also to share reality more. You said that you felt understood, that you felt that connection. It's interesting because when we co-develop metaphors, it feels like, okay, I don't know what it's like to be in your life, you don't know what it's like to be in my life, but we can join each other in that metaphor. It's a sort
mhm,
of common reality that we are building. So I often like to do that. And the metaphor could evolve. I don't like to uh, plan my metaphors too much because then it becomes like a chess game. I need to find the right metaphor that's going to hit well.
mhm,
I prefer to be pretty spontaneous, and maybe that's not the best metaphor. Maybe it start with that, but it will evolve. It's very possible at some point you'd say, well, it's not really like buying things, or I realize that I've been thinking about life and meaning as things, but it's not things. I don't really want things. I want more like connect with people. So maybe we leave aside this whole idea of buying computers that might seem too mechanistic and
mhm,
materialistic, and start to move toward more like experiencing life. So I feel more like a maybe I'm at the pool and I see kids, the kid playing in the pool, and I'm outside and I cannot join them
join
for some
them.
reason, right?
Mhm.
Okay, well, describe what it's like to you're sitting on the side, and maybe it even reminds you of something concrete in your life. And in fact, I think I remember you shared examples like that where I see other people,
Yeah.
kids, I would like to be part of it, but I'm not part of it. Basically, we're trying to get at the connection with the experience and start to be able to describe it, to connect what's important about that, what's meaningful about that.
Hmm. And it really worked, and I actually felt really comfortable about using it, you know.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And it helped me connect and talk a little bit more about that hope.
I
That
noticed that, yeah. The pace is important too. When we do a short demonstration, sometimes we rush things a bit. So I was trying to stick with the pace that I would have had even if we had a whole session. Instead of thinking, okay, we need to get to a particular place. I might even have sometimes gone a little faster than I would if it was not with for a chunk of time. But the pace is important. Let the client process, experience things. Uh, because you started saying, "Oh, I don't have hope," So it's you can feel often therapists will feel the impulse to give hope to the client. Okay,
Mhm,
well, I can understand why, and but let's talk about it. And but even if the content of the message is that we have time and it's okay, I understand the energy might still be a little rushed. It might still be to fix, "Oh, don't worry, it's okay, we have the time." So I'm trying to more than the content to really have the attitude that
mhm,
conveys that it is okay. We have time. So
mhm,
by sometimes just being quiet and give you some space and time to process.
mhm,
So there was a couple of times like that where you know you, you were expressing lack of hope. You were, or even not much expression, but I try to give you the space to experience that because for me it's something that's already new,
mhm,
right? for me, that this, even the first few minutes of the first session, there's already a form of therapy work. It's not just we gather information to understand what's going on and to build a case conceptualization. For me, from the start, I have the opportunity to uh, provide to the client something new already,
Okay.
right? We're relating to that experience, to that lack of hope in a new way.
And I think that that felt pretty awesome, pretty real. So thank you, Matt, for that.
Okay,
And
okay,
if you could name from an RFT perspective, the two or three interventions that you made
yeah.
during the role play, what would they be?
I think given the context of depression and lack of purpose, I was mostly focused on the what was how you were conceptualizing, like I said earlier, meaning and purpose. And there are three characteristics that are really fundamental from an RFT perspective when it comes to meaning and purpose in life. We conceptualize it in terms of reinforcement that's positive, overarching, and intrinsic,
Mm-hmm.
and activity through what we call hierarchical framing. So there's a lot of technical terms, but I
Mm-hmm.
may explain it relatively shortly. So basically, we want to build a sense of meaning and purpose that's directed toward something. Like
Mm-hmm.
I want to connect to people instead of I don't want to be lonely. You mentioned that you were feeling lonely, for example. So that's perfectly understandable, and that perfectly understandable that someone doesn't want to feel lonely. But in order to find meaning and purpose, we would like them to frame that motivation more in terms of what I want. I want to connect. I want to be part of the world, for example. I want to explore life. Um, Overarching means that it's not about specific situations or actions or contexts. Basically, if the more I can identify what's important to me in terms that are not limited to any particular situation, the more I'm going to be able to adapt to any situation. Eventually, I feel like nothing is ever missing because even when I'm alone, I can still connect, for example. I
Mm-hmm.
can connect with myself. I can connect with my memories of being with people. I can even connect with my sense of missing what I want. Like I might be very sad because I feel lonely, but because I recognize that it's a form of connection with connecting with people,
Mm-hmm.
then I am feeling connected. You see what I mean? It's
I know.
paradoxical, and it's often it's a bit counterintuitive until it is very intuitive, until you realize, oh yeah, I feel very sad, I feel hopeless, but inside that there's a lot of meaning. Inside
Mm-hmm.
meaninglessness, there's a lot of meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can recognize that, then life is meaningful even when it's not. So then you realize there is no place in the world where I cannot feel that meaning and purpose. So that's the second characteristic. And the third characteristic, uh, intrinsic reinforcement, means that we find satisfaction in engaging in life per se, not as in the result of what we do. So it's not the result of the action that provides meaning and purpose. It's the engagement in the action itself. Why? Because of the attitude that I have with that action. For example, right now I'm trying to be very humble and open and engaged because it's ways that I like to be in the world in general,
Mm-hmm.
not just
Yes.
here because I think that's going to make my explanation more understandable, that people are going to appreciate it better, it's going to make a nicer video clip.
Yeah.
It's yeah, probably, but that's not what I want to be guided by in my actions. I want it to be because that's how I like to be. This
Okay.
is because that I like to be like that basically. At some
Yeah.
point I cannot justify it more than it makes me feel well about myself. It feels right when I'm open and curious and I look back, even when I make a mistake, even if I don't say the right thing, I still like the way I was because I was open and curious, and that's how I like to be. So basically, when I can hit these three characteristics, I know that I'm in the domain of meaningful life.
Yeah.
So I was paying attention to when we were interacting in the role play, if these characteristics were present or not.
Mm-hmm.
There is It's interesting. We're still in the phase of exploration, but
There was a lot, like meaning was, and you could feel that in the hope there was a lot of meaning. In the hope, that little hope was there was a lot of meaning.
there is something, right? There's something that was almost like it only was asking to be explored and expanded more. It
Yeah.
was like a spark. I was
Hmm.
trying to think if there was avoidance or not. It was not. It was more a lack of reinforcement than an avoidance. But but perhaps if we explored more, we would find that I I suspect that there is more attachment to specific uh, like things than the process itself. What makes me think that is because you were talking about when you described what you saw other people have in their lives that
Hmm.
seemed to be meaningful. Having a relationship, having friends. That's the kind of things that it's again, there's nothing wrong with wanting to have friends, but in order to find meaning in your life, purpose, it has to be a connection that doesn't depend on that. Like like I said, even if I don't have my friends around me, I can still connect. How am I gonna connect if they're not around me?
Hmm.
Well, by transcending that, by transcending the material aspects of your life.
Yeah.
Uh, like even missing my friends becomes a way of finding meaning and purpose.
Hmm.
And that's that's where we went a bit when we explored this whole topic of hopelessness in your life. It became, if you notice, and that's to continue to answer your question about the main things I was trying to do. I was basically trying to help you find meaning,
Yeah.
even in our hope, even in the lack of hope, even in the lack of meaning, because we were talking about it. There was connection around. That's why I asked you also at some point. I said, "What is it like for you to talk about that or to notice that and tell me about that?" Basically, I wanted to help you find connection
Yeah.
in the process of exploring the lack of connection
Mm.
because I think that was there and you said it
Yeah.
yourself. you
Yeah.
you you felt that. I could see there was something. It's a role play, of course, but
No, no,
but
but
the,
I felt it.
it felt meaningful to talk about that. It felt like that. And so I wanted you to also notice that again, because of the short time I did at that point. Perhaps I would have waited a little longer, but it still felt relatively realistic to help you have a perspective on that experience of exploring even the lack of hope becomes meaningful. Why? Because you allow yourself to feel it, because you allow yourself to reflect on it, to connect, to share about it, and so that's what I want to do in the end. That's to me that's how you find meaning and purpose by reflecting, feeling, and sharing about it.
Yeah, and you did a wonderful job, Matt. I honestly, like I said, I honestly felt every intervention. I felt the connection. I felt that spark, and I felt
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
and it felt meaningful. So meaningful.
Okay.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's like I think it had all the properties of it, like the intrinsic
Okay.
reinforcing. It had all the properties that you were citing. So
And you have to be patient with the process. Like I said, the pace is important. Follow the metaphor. It's a little spark. You're trying to make fire. You don't want to blow too strong
yeah.
because that's not going to work. So you want to be patient with it. Even when I say, "What is it like for you?" Sometimes clients will deny that it's there because it did not, because it goes against the narrative that they have. No, their life is hopeless, and
Mm.
they talk about it, and you sense there's hope. But if you invite them to notice that, they might actually push back because it's that's not the story in which they are. So I've learned to be patient. Sometimes I can see that there is meaning and purpose, but I don't want to convince the client that it's there. I let them keep
Get there.
connecting, and eventually they might even bring it up by themselves. They say, it's different than what I thought, or I had zero hope, but I don't know, it's different, right?
Mhm.
Okay, it's different. We're noticing that together. It's a learning process. I'm not to continue to answer your question earlier about strategies. Is I'm not looking for big insights so much. I know there are approaches that in therapy that look for this big change, rapid change, radical change. I'm not against it. It's great if it happens. Although sometimes I'm almost suspicious if things are too quick because they could also be superficial.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I think of the process more as a shaping process. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we don't have to rush it, and often if we don't rush it, it comes faster actually, and it's more um, sustainable if you don't rush it.
Okay. Yeah, and I am amazed by how much you did in 20 minutes. So I think
Hmm. Hmm.
that's when you're slowing down, when you have a a clear sense of what you're looking for,
Yes.
20 minutes are gold. I mean, you can
Yeah,
have
you can do a
gold.
lot in a few minutes.
Hmm.
Uh, it's paradoxical, but you can do a lot if you don't try to do a lot. It goes back to what I was saying about it's more the attitude, the value than the result.
Hmm.
Uh, I could say that I engage with you as much as possible from the perspective of my values, how I want to be with you, right? We talk for 20 minutes. How do I want to be with you, who is struggling with life, depression, and all these things? If I'm thinking, what do I need to do in order for you to the problem is I have an attitude that's very problem-solving mechanistic, and I don't think it's going to help you. So the paradox is that it's almost like I need to stop trying to help you in order to help you. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, I, a lot of therapists from different approaches would say the same thing, is that be present with your client. Don't try to solve them. Don't try to fix them. But it's hard because we are here to help. The client comes for because they have a problem. So as a therapist, I feel like you have to become an expert in dealing with paradoxes. I'm here to help, but I don't want to be focused on helping you, because if I'm doing that, then I'm going to go against that. It's a very strange thing, but it keeps being true, I find.
Wow. Thank you, Matthew. What this is just gold. What you just said. You have
Hmm.
to try to stop. I have to try to stop to help you to start helping you. Just be present without like
Strange,
don't
right?
be too
Yeah,
yeah, it
yeah.
is a strange, but I think that's like the less I do, the more I do.
Yeah, in a way, yes. I often, before I start a session with a client, I often tell myself, I'm going to just spend some time with this person.
Okay.
I try not to think, okay, what am I going to do with this client? Where we're at? What was the last time thing? And instead think, oh, I'm going to see, the name to it, and we're going to spend some time together. Now, of course, there's a part of me that could think, well, but wait, it's a job. They're here to be helped, not just spend some time. Yeah, but and that's what I'm going to say is true for therapists who have their degrees and they have professional experience. It's not going to be just some time like with anybody. Don't worry, you're not going to forget all the things that your expertise and all. I think that's going to be part of it. In fact, we know that even from our everyday experiences with people. We never completely turn off the
We
psychological
never do.
skills we have, right? So don't worry about it. It will be there. The part that could be missed is the more human way of being with another person. So personally, I find that often it helps me to start from that perspective. And the rest, the skills, the technique, the intervention, they become more an expression of that. For me, I find that it's very helpful in the end. So it might be different for other people, but I've cultivated that more, and it helps me. Like you said, even in 20 minutes, a lot can happen if you focus first on, hey, I want to be with this person. I want to listen to them. I'm wondering how they're doing, really, and that's already work. It's already helping.
It is. Thank you, Matt. Thank you very much again for saying
Yeah.
yes. Thank you for that role play, for this wonderful case conceptualization and explaining every move through like an RFT perspective.
Yeah.
Um, I'm really grateful, and I'm
You're
sure
very
that
welcome.
people who see are going to be really grateful as well.
All
Thank
right.
you. Hope to see you here another time.
You're welcome.
Si te gustan los videos de Contextuales desde adentro, suscríbete a mi canal y activa la campanita para recibir todas las notificaciones. Y si además me puedes dar un like y dejarme un comentario, me ayudas a seguir creando más contenido para vos. Nos vemos.